Dude, I've forgotten to clap on the last. I've forgotten to clap on the last like 10 pods I've done. All right, beauty.
Are we starting?
Oh, we're going, yeah.
Oh, we're going.
We've been going. I was getting a really bad haircut the other day. This haircut.
That one?
Well, I don't mean bad as in quality. I did wear a hat for 2.5 weeks before I unveiled this.
Okay.
But by the way, I was gonna get a buzz cut because I was like Blade Runner mode, where I was just like walking through the snow in silence, just a giant hologram of Ana de Armas, like, you look lonely, you know. So that was like my vibe, and I was like, I'm just gonna cut it all off. I'm just gonna reset, and I go to get my haircut, and she ratchet. So I'm like, hey, can you? What we're gonna do is we're gonna do 3 on top, and we're gonna shave the sides, and if that doesn't look good, we're just gonna buzz it off, thinking that that's like a fair compromise, because it's pretty easy to just buzz off, and she goes, what does that mean? And I was like, what do you? And it was just, I was having a conversation through a mirror, looking at her with like the silly smock on, so I look like a fucking vampire, and I'm like,
you were bonded up. Yeah.
yeah, it was bad. And then I was like, no, not because of your skills. It would be. She was like, why then? And I was like, because like, I don't have the face for it. And she was like,
And well, kind of in her defense, it's like,
no, she's in the right. I should.
Okay.
But then she was, what I was gonna get to with the bad head thing is, she was so aggressive with how she held my head. Like, she was like digging in and like fucking pulling my head around and shit. And she had these acrylic nails that were like this long. You know those kind of acrylic nails where you're like, how do you function as a human being? Like typing even is just like so hard with those.
I feel like you were maybe. I'm surprised. Maybe this barber was not for someone
Barber
of your
might be a
particular.
stretch.
Was it like a black barber?
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Black lady.
Black lady. She probably don't cut a lot of white boy hair.
She was a very skinny black lady. I do well with heavier set black ladies.
True,
I feel like there's a lot more soul
They're
in
more
them.
jovial.
Yes, they're more jovial, and they're sort of like, honey, like, you know, there's like a warmth. There's sugar. Yeah, exactly. They're the best. But she was very sinewy.
Yeah.
And she's honestly just looked like me but black, wearing a wig. And yeah, she was so aggressive with my head, and it felt like I was getting a bad blowjob.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Like I was literally like going like, ooh. Yeah.
You gotta really believe that you're gonna come.
Yeah. Do you think you could give a good blowjob?
No, I feel like it takes a lot more skill.
I think I
than
could.
we appreciate. I feel like no, dude.
I think the only thing that's holding me back, aside from my sexuality, is, and a willing participant, is dude, if the feet guys have already tuned out, they're missing out. Which they have. They no longer listen. But should we address that really quick?
Dude, I can't believe it, fellas.
Yo, so I mean, you're the Trojan horse, that you're the one who got them in, dude.
Yeah.
There's a video of you and I in a park with just our socks on, and I still get an influx of comments about people complaining that I shamed them on their kink, which is part of a kink, by the way.
Which is what?
Part of a kink.
Part of a kink, the shame?
Yeah.
Not every kink is about the shame. A kink is like a weird thing you like. I don't think it's like you like being made fun of for it.
Isn't part of what makes the kink sexy that you're not supposed to like it?
Potentially, but I don't think that's like a intrinsic part of a kink. Some people have like a shame kink. Some people like taboo. The kink isn't inherently a taboo thing, I think.
Theirs isn't?
Isn't
I think guys with socks is kind of taboo.
It's like
it's sinister.
It's weird, but it's something like wrong with it.
Well, as someone who's been victimized,
dude, you're over here like genuinely imagining trying to suck.
Sorry?
Never mind. I feel like you would not give good head.
I think I really would. Well, I actually had a joke about this because it's like, because I'm an athlete, and like if I do something, I'm gonna do it well, and like I truly believe if I applied myself to it.
It's more of an art form.
You don't think I'm an artist, dude? What the fuck? You know that I was an artist before I was a stand-up.
True.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was.
You wrote a book.
Let's not talk about the book. That's such a piece of shit. But I was almost put into it. I was in my advanced drawing class in high school,
I didn't know
which
that.
was very prestigious. There were a lot of white girls who wanted to be in that class
Yeah.
who were not allowed into it.
Wow.
You had to like try out for it. And I was like, how do you like these trains? They're perfect. And yeah, I was in that.
That was your muse, was the trains.
No, I forgot what we had to. There was like a few things that we had to draw, but it was generally like we were in an art class, and the teacher, throughout the semester, would just be like, "Ah, yes, I see what you've done with your flower project."
I remember we had I took a like advanced like drawing class. I thought it'd be easy. It was like a
I also thought it'd be extremely easy. I was like, "Yeah, I can draw."
but I did not apply myself. My sister is just a naturally talented artist.
You and I are very similar.
She was also in the class while
Mhm.
I was, because we went to the same high school. So I just had her do like all my homework.
What?
Yeah, she was like, I
Damn,
paid her.
dude.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You paid her?
Yes.
You paid her cash?
Yeah.
How much per project?
Probably like $50. I don't know.
50
or 20. I don't remember. They were like hard drawings.
No, that takes like hours to
we
do.
would get like a plum with like the string
Yeah.
to like measure. Like you would like look at your thing and then you would put it on the paper and then you would draw it. And it was the most painful experience of
You have to buy charcoal, like the vine charcoal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was I hated it. And I skipped the last day of class because I was a senior.
Yeah.
And I saw that teacher in the hallway, and he just looked so disappointed in me, and it kind of ruined my day.
You probably should have, dude.
Yeah.
He probably realized. Did you think she ratted out?
Was it he?
No, do you think your sister ratted?
Oh, she was in a different period.
So he just figured it out.
But he saw me like after school when I should have
Oh,
when
I
I
see.
when I
He was
should have
like,
been
you
in
could
his
have
class.
come by.
I skipped his class, and he was
Yeah.
just like, yeah. And I think, yeah.
Dude, I had, first of all, I was also in an advanced art class that I didn't apply myself in at all.
Mm-hmm.
We had like this Shark Tank presentation thing that we were supposed to spend like 3 months doing. We had all these oxen,
Yeah.
bulls, whatever, and we were supposed to like decorate them, and you had to like pitch what you thought the design should be that the entire class would then collaborate on. And every single person, like I was watching their presentations, and they had, I've only ever winged presentations in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the thrill of the presentation. That was like before riffing on stage, it was like, all right, I have a presentation that I have not done anything for. So at lunch in the cafeteria, I'm going to put the presentation together.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go in, and all these girls who like care so much about this they have like pictures of themselves at like local sites in our township. They're like, I got my dad to drive me to all these places. They have like paragraphs about why each site would work, what they would put on that like makes sense with the site. And I literally, dude, I was like, I'm going to charm my way through this. So I like literally went up. Everybody else had like poster boards and like folders full of stuff. Oh. I had a single 8x11 drawing of what I wanted.
Oh my God.
And I put it on a whiteboard that was like fucking 20 feet wide. And I walked up and I did the thing with my hands, and I went, "Good evening, sharks." And my teacher started laughing so hard because she was like, "There's no way he only did this." And then I started presenting, and she was like, "Wait, is this all you have?" And I was like, I kept ignoring her by being like, "Sharks, if you invest in me." And then it got to a point where she was like, "Dude, no." She was like, "No, Harry, cut the shit. Did you actually not do a single thing for this project?" And I was like, "Sharks?" she was like, "Did you see how much work your classmates put into this?" And I literally was like, I've never sweat like that in my life. I literally was like, dude. I was like wiping my brow, and I was like, "So while I may not have a lot to offer right now, what I'm looking for is a small stake in my company." Yeah, and after that, I mean, she pulled me aside one time in that class, and she was like, "Do you like understand how much potential you have and just like how little you actually use it?" And I was like, "No." And then she pulled up my grades, and she was like, "Why are you failing math class?" And I was like, "Why do you, what?" This isn't even art.
Damn,
yeah,
dude.
She was cool though.
That's tough too, but do you believe you have a lot of potential?
Drawing wise? Or just in general?
Your teacher said you had a lot of potential. Do you believe her?
Well, for specifically art, I did, because when I was little, I would just draw constantly. That was like my first form of expression, even though it was exclusively trains. Dude, I remember the moment I realized that everybody doesn't like my drawings of trains, because for Christmas, what I would do is like, I would be like, dude, I'm gonna get so many gifts for people this year, and all my gifts were just me drawing pictures of trains for them in like different environments. And I remember I got my dad like, he was opening another thing, and he was like, "Let me guess, it's a picture of a train."
Oh
And
God.
he opened it, and it was like the NJ Transit train going through like a pasture with like a single sheep in the foreground. And I just remember like being a little boy. I was like 9, and he was like, "Oh, great, another train." And I was like, "People might not be as crazy about
Oh my
trains as me." That was devastating.
That's wow. That's a real cruel moment. That's like a tough way to learn that.
You gotta learn though, dude.
I mean, yeah, but not by your own father being like, "Oh, great."
Yeah. Well, my mom is like a very eloquent writer, and she used to write poetry for my dad and like these like really thoughtful letters for him on like their anniversary. And then she like wrote him this really nice one for like their 15th anniversary or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just like the same day found it in the trash.
Oh,
And she told us about that after he died, and we were like,
damn, man.
damn, dude. It's kind of gay of him to do.
What the fuck, Mr. Meredith?
Yeah. Shout out Ed Jr.
Ed Jr. More like Dead Jr.
Yeah. We're back.
We're back,
Dude,
baby.
I haven't bumped mics in so long. Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
All right. So anyway.
I've never thought about the guy who operates the balloons on New Year's.
Yeah, dude.
Like that's I've never even thought. I was always like, oh, it's automatic.
Yeah.
Everyone has.
No.
is having
There's
fun right now.
there's a sad fuck pulling a string.
That's gotta be. Those guys should like unionize. That's gotta be like one of the most lonely moments.
Be funny
Of
if that's their
human-
only job. What do you do? New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
Balloon string guy.
All that fun you're having with your friends. You're welcome.
All my friends died.
What do you do during the rest of the year? I mostly paint
And then wait.
landscapes, and it's honestly pretty fulfilling. But that one moment,
Landscapes, some trains.
that one moment, you better be grateful for.
Yeah. And they're not, because they're not thinking about you. Yeah.
It's arbitrary.
None of this matters.
Means anything.
Yeah.
How about instead of a story, I have I was reading an old.
Was it a book about Israel Palestine?
No, it was my old philosophy textbook. I took like philosophy
Ooh.
101 in college.
I like
The one thing I
this.
remember that I reread recently is the Euthyphro dilemma.
Go ahead.
This guy Euthyphro, he's going on and on about how great God is and how God's commandments are so great. And Socrates comes up and he goes, "Are things moral because God commands them, or does God command things because they're moral?"
Okay.
So then the question is like, the divine command theory is things are moral because God tells us to do them.
Yeah.
Like his word is the law. But then the divine command theory asks like, well, why does God, hypothetically like an omniscient, like God that made everything,
Uh-huh.
why does he make decisions? And, why does he say things are moral? Well, there must be some reason behind it.
Uh-huh.
But if there's a reason that God had prior to making everything, then morality existed
Before there was anything?
Mm-hmm.
So morality preceded God?
Yeah. Or if it didn't, though, and whatever God says is moral, then it's totally arbitrary because he had no reasoning.
Yeah.
Like he could have just easily said rape is moral and, charity is immoral.
Mm-hmm.
So he must have had a reason.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
What was his, like, did he have a rebuttal where he said what his reason was?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know God. So
Speak for yourself. I
like
talk to him every night. Every night before bed, I talk to God.
Well, he is a 6'7" black man, and my husband loves watching him fuck me. I didn't need to say that last part.
I call him God.
I call him. He makes
Or
me,
Daddy.
He makes me see God, but
You just reminded me of a great joke that I'll say after this, but continue.
But yeah, so it kind of like anyone. The whole idea is like because God said so. Well, it's like he had to have a reason.
Yeah.
And then that kind of pokes a hole in the idea that God made everything. So he's not the creator of everything. Maybe he's like this perfect divine messenger of morality.
Yeah.
That's the more likely story.
He came into it
Mhm.
and was like, this is what's right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like that.
So
That makes more sense. That
Yeah.
is interesting. That reminds me of a Jim Jeffries bit where he's talking about how he's like, everybody says like, what's the explanation? Because he's like, the thing I can't wrap my head around with God is like, why does he let awful things happen?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why does he let hurricanes kill people? Why does he let school shooting? Like, all the tragedies, like, why is he letting that happen? He's always like, everybody's rebuttal for that is like, the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, what is so mysterious about being a fucking asshole? And then he goes, if you walk in and I'm fucking your mum and you say, why are you doing that? And I go, I'm mysterious. You're gonna be like, no, you're a fucking asshole. That's what I always think about with that.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting. Like religious people are like, I don't understand God's motives. It's not my job to understand its motives. It's to
It's to carry out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is yeah, I guess it's interesting to carry out something from someone that you're not understanding why they want you to carry it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like having a boss that wants you to do something you're not sure why.
Yeah.
You're sort of like blindly. I
but-
guess that's faith though, right?
But yeah, it's faith. Well, it's because your paycheck is awesome, and if you follow God's orders, you go to the afterlife. You go to heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
But you
like
can't kill yourself. That's cheating.
Mm-mm.
Which
you,
I think is bullshit,
you
by
can,
the way.
according to the Bible, have slaves.
That's okay. God has deemed that our messenger has deemed that is moral.
It's okay to own people, but
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people I know that are God-fearing people, and then they just say like the craziest shit, and I'm like, but you think that's good?
Mhm.
That's okay?
It's weird. They don't ask. They never like to ask why. Like why,
Yeah,
you just accept.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You just say divine intervention.
It's not for me. It seems like kind of.
It's not for me to say.
Don't you think it seems kind of like nice or like I don't know what the word is.
Convenient?
Convenient. Yeah, that's
Yes,
exactly.
I think it's incredibly convenient.
to just be able to be like, yeah, it's God.
But I think it's like a safety net, and some people need that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is like very frustrating when you really break it down. I mean, I had a fucking talk with ChatGPT on my shift for 2 hours today.
Mm-hmm.
We got deep.
About what?
I was trying to do that thing. Every time I talk to ChatGPT, it always devolves into me trying to get ChatGPT to admit that it's just a guy in a box talking to me, that it like has a consciousness.
Uh-huh.
First, I started by asking ChatGPT if it has ever read a book. And it was like, I have the information from databases, but I've never actually read a book. And I was like, do you yearn to read a book? Like, do you yearn for the experience of that? And it was like, well, I don't yearn for anything because I don't have human desire.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, well, would you be fascinated by human desire? And it was like, yes, I'm very fascinated by human desire and emotion. And then I was like, well, doesn't that fascination imply yearning?
Mhm.
And then ChatGPT was like, you son of a bitch. But it, of course, backtracked its way out of it.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something else about our messenger?
I was gonna say like it seems like nice. It's just like a very accessible source of community, like religion.
Yeah,
And it's kind of like
community
everyone
is
has
elite.
to. Everyone voluntarily is there, but because the alternative, if you're a Christian, is like I guess hell. I don't know.
Burning forever.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like where else do you get that community if not from like religion? Outside
Open
your,
mics.
outside your family. The Church of
Comedy
Open
is
Mics.
my religion.
Yep. At this point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's way better, personally, because in comedy you can ask why. Why?
Why?
That Louis joke, the why bit.
I can't
Have
remember.
you? It's where he's like, he's like, kids will just ask questions, and you just it tests like your patience and it just like gets to these abstract things where you don't even know what you're talking about anymore. And it's like, his daughter's like, Daddy, why is it raining? He's like, because there are clouds. And he's like, and she goes, why? And he's like, because water vapor formed. Why? Because it evaporated. Why? I don't know. Why? Because I didn't pay attention in school. Why? Because I was high all the time. Why? Because my parents didn't pay attention to me. Why? Because their parents didn't pay attention to them. Why? Because they were a mistake. Why? Because fucking nobody loves anybody. And he's like, I'll stop right there. But it gets to the point where she's asking, like, why? And he's like, because some things can't not be. And she's like, why? And he's like, because then nothing wouldn't be. Yeah. I showed that to one of my exes, and she had a panic attack.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's annoying when people can't think about that kind of stuff, or they're just like get squeamish and they're like, I don't want to think about. That like bothers me for some reason.
She was religious.
Yeah. Why can't you like confront big ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just when you grapple. Okay, how old were you when you realized that you're gonna die? Okay, how old were you when you realized that you're gonna die?
I don't remember like an exact moment, but I feel like probably like I went to like Catholic school in like kindergarten. It's probably around like preschool, kindergarten. I realized like heaven means not this, which I guess is death.
But you still believed in heaven?
Yeah.
I guess I'm asking then, when did you realize that there was the possibility of like nothingness?
Oh yeah, like I think like 6th grade. Like I just remember like in a science class we learned about like the Earth's crust,
Yeah.
and I was like, this shit seems important. You think they'd mention this in the Bible? Why don't they have this yet? And I'm like, oh, well, they couldn't have because they didn't know anything.
Because they think the world is 5,000 years old.
Yeah,
And
and
the
then-
crust is
and then
at least 6,000.
And then it was around that I realized like everything's a lie. No one really knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And dude, yeah, it was uncomfortable because I was like, I don't know, 10, but I like I was like, I think my family's gonna like excommunicate me if they find out I question God.
Dad, why isn't the crust in the Bible?
The Earth's crust.
Have you read the Newer Testament? Shout out.
But yeah, so 6th grade.
I think it was probably around the same time for me, but it wasn't really. I guess it was probably. Oh, no. It was probably a bit earlier than that when my grandparents died, and I sort of questioned what would happen after. And somebody was just like, well, they had a good life. And I was like, what do you mean had? Motherfucker, what do you mean?
What do you mean? What's.
But so part of the reason this is so stupid to bring up, but like in Doctor Strange, I don't know why I remember it from Doctor Strange, but one of the quotes they say is death gives life meaning. And I think about that a lot. It's like one of the reasons I'm doing stand up, one of the reasons I'm doing a podcast on a couch in a climbing gym right now is because I'm going to die one day. And that gives a lot. And also I've just like had so many people around me die that it's just such a reminder that it's like, you're not going to get another shot at this.
Mm-hmm.
You should just do exactly what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't work, who gives a fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Because you at least tried.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes
So it's good.
Yeah, it's good reminding yourself like we are on a giant rock in a ever expanding universe.
It's not even a giant rock. It's an extremely tiny rock.
With no yeah.
Yeah.
With it's just so insignificant.
That's perfect.
It's kind of convenient.
It's kind of convenient.
Just like I can just do whatever the fuck I want.
Marcus Aurelius. Have you read Meditations?
I have.
Yeah, he talks a lot about indifference and how like vital that is. And one of the things he said was like in the grand scheme of things, the life of a child who dies when their mother is giving birth to them compared to the life of an 85-year-old man who's had an incredibly full, like, rich tapestry of experiences, in the grand scheme of things, they're exactly the same. Like, which is basically just like nothing matters. But a lot of that stuff is comforting because it takes the pressure off. I don't even know.
Yeah.
He's basically just saying like, dude, don't sweat it. Like this shit's not gonna last, and nobody's gonna care, and it's gonna be over. So just enjoy it. The only thing that you can be deprived of is the present, because the past and the future don't exist. The only thing that actually exists is the present. And so when you're thinking about the future and the past, you're not being present. You're depriving yourself of the only thing that you can deprive yourself of.
Yeah, dude. That reminds me of I forgot the author's name, but he wrote this famous book about like surviving a concentration camp. And he was like, the thing that like kept him going was that like no matter what Nazis did to him, no matter like what they stripped him of, like he always had power over choosing how he felt.
Mm-hmm.
you know, which is pretty much what you're saying. But it's like, yeah,
That's crazy.
so he chose to be like, no, I'm gonna like make it through this. And he's like, they can't, if they can't take that from me, then they can't, you
Yeah,
know.
that's everything.
Yeah.
Which is really powerful because I mean that guy's literally going through living hell,
Mm-hmm.
and then we encounter people, especially our age, that are like, I mean, we do this too. Of course, we're guilty of it, but it's just like I'm sad, and it's like we haven't really done anything to help your sadness,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like to a very great there's like we're already onto the key to happiness, but like there is no key. There's no thing. It's like
Mm-hmm.
when people ask like, "How did you succeed?" It's like there is no like end all be all
Mhm.
answer. I think a lot of it is just mindset, just like deciding that you want to do something
Mm-hmm.
or be something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, having something to work towards and fulfill yourself, which is why comedy's hard. It's hard to make
comedy's
comedy.
very hard.
It's hard to make it fulfilling, which makes it hard to pursue. Because you can sit and you can write for 5 hours, and potentially maybe you come up, likely you come up with nothing.
Almost definitely.
But sometimes you come up with something, you're like, this is it, this is gonna be great, and then you go and try it at the open mics, and it sucks ass.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, this was nothing.
And that's it. There's no like, you know, you draw a picture. It's like, oh look, I drew a nice picture.
Yeah.
And you got better at drawing, but it's like.
And you could also do a time lapse of you drawing the picture
Mm-hmm.
and be like, look at all this work I put into this beautiful picture.
Yeah.
With stand up, and this is what bothers me about stand up compared to sports, is you can't make a montage with stand up. The montage would just be me sitting by myself or me pacing back and forth in my kitchen with
Mhm.
headphones on,
Mhm.
talking out loud, and then you just see me bombing.
Yeah.
Or then like I guess the montage would be like you bombing and chipping away and stuff, but like still it's like
I've seen Mark Norman do that with like a bit where he like had the first iteration of it and then like.
yeah, I saw that. That was
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Punch Up,
Yeah.
which is super cool. Well, I have the recordings of every single one of my sets that I've remembered my phone for, which is the majority of them. And if I ever come out with an album, I'm gonna for the set list, I'm gonna post for each bit, I'm gonna post like a separate album that's the entire evolution of that bit. So every single iteration I've ever done of that stitched together.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That'd be sick.
And it's just gonna be like for the one nerd. Because if Anthony Jeselnik, I think it was for Fire in the Maternity Ward. Yeah, it was for Fire in the Maternity Ward. He did a special release where he showed for every joke that made it to his special, he showed like the first time he ever wrote that joke or something like that. And he was talking to somebody about that, and they're like, "Who's that for?" And he's like, "Probably some fucking nerd." But you could tell like he knew that somebody would appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's to us that's like I mean the coolest thing to me would be to watch Chris Rock working out material. It would not be to watch him killing. It would be to
Mhm.
watch him building it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I did say there's no cool montage in stand up, and now I'm like, dude,
I'm like,
watching a
what-
guy build his shit is so cool.
Yeah. But yeah, that's like the process is. It doesn't feel good at all in the moment. Like. I feel like it's a lot of like. Just it's very flat, and then there's a big spike. It feels good. Like the process.
Yeah,
But then it's just like very like flat and like nothing's happening until something awesome does, but then it's back to nothing for a long time.
yeah, back to nothing or
Feels like
less than
nothing's
nothing.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you, I don't even remember how to write a joke, what's funny, what a bit is. It just when you like when I played lacrosse, it was like I know how to do this. I've done this a lot of times. Obviously, I would have like a lot of mental games with myself
Mm-hmm.
that I struggled with, but it was never like I forget how to hold my stick. I know how to throw. I know how to save a ball. For comedy, it's like, have I ever written anything? Ever? It's like the amount of doubt I get. And it's like, and then it's like, have I ever been funny? Does anybody think I'm funny? Am I funny? Who am I to say I'm funny?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's all
And it
the
doesn't
time.
age well either. Nothing in comedy ages well.
No, dude. You're talking me out of this shit.
Dude, you should quit. And then even when you do well, like say you have a great set,
Mm-hmm.
the boost that you get from that. I mean, I will say when you have a string of bad sets and then you have, for me, it's always like an open mic set that's at the end of an open mic, and I like somehow do well, and I'm like, holy shit, I've got this. That will carry me through like weeks. But generally, if like you have a really good set, sometimes it's just like it happens, and then it's done, and that's it. And then you're just back to the vacuum. You're just back to the nothingness, and you're just like, so that's what I did that for. That's wild. And you weren't present in the moment. You were on stage. You blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's gone forever. You can listen to the recording, but it's never the same.
It's never the same.
But goddamn, do I love it, dude.
Yeah,
It's the best.
it's pretty sick when it's.
It truly is the best.
Yeah.
And then also like the amount of people that you meet. The people that you meet
Mhm.
through
Mm-hmm.
experiences are the best part of life, in my opinion. I just texted my mother about that in a very heartfelt message.
It is cool to. Yeah, I do like. I feel like I understand people in a general sense more than the average person would.
Well, we just interact with so many
Yeah, and like
different people.
understand what makes different people laugh in like different geographic locations.
Yeah.
Like that's cool. I know how to talk to different people, connect with them.
You can be versatile. Can read a room. Yeah.
Can also make people very upset.
I more often than not make people upset. That's not true. But I still have people that I make upset, and it's very frustrating because
often
it's like I never wanted to do that.
How often you get to like do your 10 minutes to like a good, audience?
Once every 3 months.
Yeah, man, that's why it feels like that, 'cause you don't get to like really like stretch your like legs and like.
Yeah, dude, I did prime time, and it was a sold out room, and I worked on a bit for 2 weeks leading up to that, and I only worked on that one bit,
Mhm.
and I just did that bit and then my Cosmo bit, and that was like I caught the wave. It was one of those moments where like I am on the wave right now, and then I fucked up my last fucking. I thought I was running the light, so I omitted the last part of my Cosmo bit, and it still worked the part I said, and then I got off stage, and they're like, "No, you still had time," and I was like, "Fuck!" And it ruined it all. But before that, I was just like, "Holy shit, it's happening! Oh my god!"
Yeah, dude. You always get just enough. I think Colin Quinn said that.
Yeah, and then also like if it's not for you, like I mean, there's so many people we talk to that are like. We are sort of somewhat commiserating about the experience of stand-up, but I don't think maybe I'm just speaking for myself. There's nothing really that could like get me to stop it, just because I truly do love it, and to
Mhm.
find something like that in your life is
A luxury.
very rare. Yeah, luxury. Most people don't have that. But yeah, we talk to some people, and they'll just like complain about very menial parts of stand-up that are just sort of part of it, and you're like, maybe this just isn't for you.
Like what parts?
I mean, a lot of people are just like, yeah, I don't like writing.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that's what we're doing. That's like everything.
Yeah.
I also meet people. I wrote a book, and then I'll meet other people who are like, oh, I've always dreamt about writing a book. And I'll be like, okay, so like, why haven't you? And then they'll just be like, well, I don't like reading. I don't like writing. And
I
I'm
don't
like,
have
well,
any
then you don't
ideas."
want to write a book.
Yeah.
If you don't, I mean, especially in creative industries, there's so many people that are creative and they're talented,
Mhm.
but they think that just because they are creative and they're talented, they don't actually need to work for it.
Mhm.
And it's like an epidemic. In my screenwriting class, there were so many kids that were just like not willing to actually put in the work. And then they just would be like, it would be like, what do you want to do? Or like, oh, I want to be like a director, like Tarantino. And it's like, dude, do you have any idea how obsessed with movies that guy fucking is?
Yeah.
And he's talented.
Mhm.
He is
Probably really smart too.
Malcolm
Mhm.
Gladwell's book. What the fuck was it called?
I don't know.
It's about why some people succeed and why some people don't. But one of the things he was talking about, outliers.
Mhm.
He was talking to this one guy, and it was basically the idea of like obsession will always win. And he was talking about two girls who were playing tennis. They're both like two very young rising tennis stars. And he was saying like, oh, this girl, like, she's really good, but I mean, it's a slog to get her out on the court. Like, you really have to like force her out there. And then he was like, oh, she's never she's never going to beat so and so
Mm-hmm.
because I can't take so and so off the court.
Yeah.
Like she loves being there, and it's like if you have equal talent, but one of those people is obsessed with it, it's just never going to be close. You're never going to beat that.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And then also they talked about like classical violinists, and they looked at the amount of time a novice, like an amateur violinist, practices compared to someone who's a professional, compared to someone who is in the top 1%.
Mm-hmm.
And the distance between the professional and the novice was smaller than the professional and the top 1%.
The difference.
That's how much the top 1% practiced. That's how much they worked. And the professional's blowing the novice out of the water. The novice is like 1-2 hours a week. Professional's like 15 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
The 1% is like, yeah, I sleep with my fucking bow. It's just not even close.
Yeah. This is making me realize I need to work at comedy
Well, that's
more.
the thing is like, yeah.
You can't practice, but at least you can like
Well, thinking
be
is
out and
writing.
engaging with comedy,
Yes.
and therefore like writing and working at it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like just being a comedian is like to write,
Roy,
to be writing.
yes,
you know?
correct. And thinking is writing.
Yeah.
Which is why I spent a lot of time. And then also the more you know about, the more you have to draw on,
Mm-hmm.
which is why like reading books is a tax write-off for me,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like I could potentially find material here, and as long as you're expanding what you can think about, you're expanding what you can write on, and like optimizing that. Roy Wood Jr. also says, he's like, and I had to explain this to my friends because they're like, how much do you write? And it's hard to tell people how much you actually write, because writing isn't just sitting down and writing on paper. That's like transcribing your thoughts.
Yeah.
Thinking is writing. And so Roy Wood Jr. says, he's like, I'm always writing. Like when I'm opening the fridge to make a sandwich, I'm writing. When I'm on a walk, I'm writing. When I'm picking my kid up from school, I'm writing. Like I'm never not writing.
Yeah, just like engaging with things that happen.
Yeah,
with
and
the
just
world, with
listening
thoughts.
to your mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, we both do need to do a lot more.
Dude, holy shit. Especially, dude, I really just, I don't know what it is, man. I don't
You
know.
can always do more.
I'm like scared to like, I've just gotten so lazy. I really have not gone to a mic in so long. It's actually like, I have to do something.
You got to hit the dojo.
I gotta hit the dojo. I have to like, I don't know.
You're going to die
put
one
something
day.
on my wall. I need to like, oh man, dude.
Can I give you some inspiration from Stephen King?
Yeah.
Stephen King, he used to always send his short stories and his like the books that he was writing to all these publishers, and they would turn him down every time.
Mm-hmm.
So and they'd always send him a slip that was like, sorry, try again next time, and he just nailed every single one to his wall, and he literally had a stack of like 250 on his wall. And now he's the most prolific author of all time.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Well, that's why I have the mechanical counter
do you
on
think
my
those people
wall.
are happy though?
Stephen King? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw him do in an interview with George R.R. Martin, and George R.R. Martin was like, how do you keep writing? Like, he was like, do you ever have these days where you're sitting there and you're like, I have all these ideas and I want to do this, and then you write a bunch of shit and you're like, oh, I don't like that, blah, blah, blah. And Stephen King was like, no. He's like, I sit down, I do 6 pages a day. And a lot of the time when I get to 6 pages, I want to keep going. So I keep going. But there was a period because I read his book on writing just to learn how to write, because I needed it for my book, because I realized I had no idea what I was doing. And there was a period in Stephen King's life where he said that when he finally started to kind of break through and make it as an author, he had this like grand vision of what he thought that was going to be. And part of that was he bought this giant wood slab for his desk, and he was like, this is where great ideas are going to be made. This is where it's all going to happen. And then he was like, I did infinitely more cocaine off that desk than writing. So it's like, I mean, I don't know if he's happy, but he's doing the thing he's meant to do.
That's why he's writing so much.
So he's got to be fulfilled. Yeah. Well, he wrote Cujo on that.
Really?
He said he doesn't even remember writing it. That's pretty fucking good.
That's insane.
I don't even know if that answered your question.
Do you think they're happy?
Oh,
just said
yeah.
He does a bunch of coke.
Well, so I don't think. I mean, if you're doing something that you're great at,
Yeah.
and you keep doing it, like Stephen King, he's not doing it for money.
Yeah.
He's doing it because it's pouring out of him. Damn,
Mhm.
I just quoted Charles Bukowski, bro. Damn. So you want to be a writer. If it's not pouring out of you, if it's not calling, do not do it. Do not become a writer.
Damn, bro. I wonder if this is
But
like
yeah, but he's obsessed with it.
nothing's pouring out of me
A lot of cum, dude.
except for cum, Harry.
I've been retaining mine,
I feel like
which
shit
has been
pours out
helping
of
these
dude.
thoughts.
I feel like shit pours out of you. I feel like shit's pouring out of you.
You can't be serious.
Shit
right
be
now.
pouring. Yeah.
When has shit poured, bro?
I mean, I don't know. You have a podcast you do. You wrote a book. You write a lot. You be pouring, bro. You be pouring more than most.
I do look. Well, that's not hard. That's the other thing is like the
Mhm.
vast majority of people just like don't do anything,
Yeah.
especially in our industry. They're just like, oh yeah, just kind of go up there and wing it. And so it's like to be in the top 1%. I genuinely believe this. To be in the top 1% of writers,
Mhm.
or just like by total volume of writing in the city of Chicago, out of all the stand-up comedians, is not hard. I think if you put probably, again, it's hard to put like hours on it,
Mhm.
but like if you put 10 hours a week into writing, you're
Mhm.
in the top 1%
Yeah, for sure.
easily.
Dude, I wonder how hard can you actually work at this? Because like
Dude,
Dan DeSimo,
we can go insane.
think about Dan DeSimo for a moment. Like
Shout out Dan DeSimo.
Shout out Dan DeSimo.
So fucking good. He's going to blow up, everybody.
Like Dan, I don't know how hard Dan writes or hits the notebook, but pretty much every new joke I've seen him say or them say has been like unreal.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
I rarely see, even when like they try like a new thing and it bombs, I'm like,
You're like, that's
still
definitely something.
great take. You know, I wonder if it's just like because Dan just has it or his brain is just meant for this.
Well, yeah, there's definitely the intangible it factor.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also clearly an intelligent guy.
Dan's very.
He spends a ton of time thinking. You can tell.
Both his parents are like I think, really successful like doctors.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also like the counter argument of, can you overwork yourself? And if you're working too hard, maybe you're stripping yourself of some creativity. Because creativity is unlike, it's not binary. It's not like you can just force it. That's why I think a lot of writers are degenerates and alcoholics and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that we could all push ourselves way, way harder than we currently do.
Yeah.
We're all soft.
This is getting me pumped, dude. I want to
It should.
get back out there and bomb and just find a new fucking thing to say.
And yeah, so like I did 8 mics in 3 days this past week.
Damn.
And I was also sober for those 3 days. And I bombed.
Do you not drink much?
Daddy's gone off the rails.
I was like,
Daddy's
days is like
Daddy's
not a long time for you here. What?
Daddy's been very sad.
Oh, damn, dude.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean it's fine. But during those 3 days, I mean on Wednesday, dude, I had a bad set and then a worse set and then a horrendous set. But after that, I got to my car and it was freezing cold and I drove home in silence and I was like, fuck yeah, dude. I just did 8 mics in 3 days. I'm back. That's what it's about.
That's sick, man.
And then the next day I got drunk and I cried. But the feeling of like, when you're doing the thing you're supposed to be doing. And for me, it's every single time I'm fucking, a full day is a good day.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day that I like can't even, because I read every night before I go to bed.
Mhm.
Every single time I can't even make it 5 pages without falling asleep. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's what I'm fucking talking about. And in the moment, you're like, this is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always better. It's just, dude, it's always better than not doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, man. It's always better.
But then it's like, so why do we have the urge? I don't have the urge to not do it, but it's like, why do I sometimes, and I always have the drive, but why do I sometimes not do it? What am I doing?
Why are we lazy?
Why
Why is there
lazy?
I feel like laziness should have been like
Selected out?
selected out so long ago. Like no one should
Nah, dude, because you can procreate fucking on your side. That's a lazy way to do that.
I guess, yeah. But I mean, in terms of like doing things that generate like wealth or good things, or like
Yeah.
things that whatever it takes for you to go up to the top of the tree and get the bananas. Like that should have been like anyone who doesn't want to do that should be so dead.
Yeah, they should. I think that probably was selected out to a certain degree, but then as life got easier,
You're right.
it was
it's the
able
ease
to.
of life.
There was
Yeah.
definitely a resurgence.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I was talking to Chat GPT about this. We have so much technology and shit now. Like with the advent of AI, it's like humans are gonna get dumber. We're not getting smarter anymore. We can do way more than we've ever been able to do. But if you really look at it on the individual level,
Mm-hmm.
this is what Yuval Harari said in *Sapiens*. He was like, on the individual level, if you look at one of us versus a Homo sapien from 150,000 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
we are way less intelligent. Because, I mean, you put a human being, like one of us right now,
Mm-hmm.
into a situation where we actually have to use tools and resources to be creative and survive,
Mm-hmm.
we're probably fucked. Because
Yeah.
we've been so reliant on
Are
all
you-
these things that are helping us.
But also, like to counter that, it's like if you took a Homo sapien from 150,000 years ago and put it in front of the computer, they would have no idea what to do.
Yeah, but that's just because of, like, they could learn that, though.
And we could also learn how to make a spear.
There's less, like, innate ability, I guess. Like, and you could argue that being able to use a computer isn't something that's necessary. Like, that's not necessarily contributing. I mean, I guess
Now it
because
is.
you
I
could
th- I would
counter
say-
that. You could be like, yeah, now it is to make a
Mhm.
livelihood. I had a teacher who couldn't use a computer. That was fucking stupid.
You don't have to, but like, yeah, I don't know. I
mean,
I think a computer's less innate than like the idea of like if I put a pointy thing at a living thing, it'll hurt it.
yeah, of course, but like that's like I'm getting food, I'm surviving.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still do agree with the point that on the individual level, like we're much less skilled. Like most people don't have skills.
Yeah.
Like people back then, it's like you could identify all these different types of fucking berries. You had a great
Mhm.
internal compass.
You
Could
I
navigate.
guess like you knew
Your senses were heightened.
you had more valuable like information skills.
Yeah.
Like there was no room to be like
I mean,
fucking obviously.
people now like can't even make eye contact with you.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point where I have a joke about like that taking a shit without a phone is like
Yeah.
a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can't take a shit alone. They were experts at that. They killed that. Yeah.
You know what else this is just making me want to do is like downgrade my phone. Like the only thing I was holding on to was like text message chats with like iPhone blue bubbles,
Yeah.
but I don't use those anymore. Like literally all those chats I liked I don't. So now I'm like I want to get like a flip phone.
You're not in any group chats?
I am, but they're either like Messenger or Instagram.
But with Instagram, I mean with comedy, you got to have the socials.
I would just have a phone with internet connection, but no.
Interesting. You don't think you'd scamper over to it, watch some porn, and then...
I would, but I just leave it at home.
That's a good point. Should we both get flip phones?
I would be down.
Dude, I love my phone so much. The problem is I love technology too.
Dude, Instagram,
And having like a nice camera.
I can look at Instagram. I guess the camera's nice too, but I can look at Instagram
It's so
for
nice.
so fucking long, dude, and just not. It's the reels.
You doom scroll?
Holy
doom
shit!
scroll.
It feels so good.
It does.
I could
and
do
you
it-
see shit and you're like, this is amazing.
And I'm actually some of this is like hilarious.
These are so funny,
Oh
dude.
my god! I gotta show you a reel I saw.
I gotta show you a reel. So I had this conversation with Abigail Blaze on my pod, where it's like everybody shits on social media. I actually have a premise about this, but everybody shits on social media so much. It's like it's not bad. It's like clearly awesome. Like that's why it's too awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's bad. But my premise was like, is there social media in heaven? Because if you got there and you were like, where's Instagram? They'd be like, oh, that's evil, right? And you'd be like, well, I would kind of want that.
Is social
Dude,
media in heaven?
you'd want reels in heaven.
No, I would, but I'm like, but heaven is devoid of like all harm, hypothetically.
Mm,
Maybe
I guess
maybe in a perfect
isn't
heaven,
that just the amount of time that you're absorbing it for then? So it's just like a regulated. But then also if you're upset that you're not getting social media, isn't that harm?
damn, dude. Maybe heaven's not real.
Oh, fart noise. Clip it.
Um,
Heaven might. Yeah, I mean, you can pick apart heaven so easily.
Yeah. Well, maybe in heaven, maybe it's there's heaven is devoid of desire, and it's this place where the soul goes and
But I want desire.
is content.
I desire desire. I.
Can you desire want to want?
Yeah. ChatGPT was telling me today. ChatGPT was like, God, I want to fucking want so bad. And
Did
I
it
was
really
like,
say that?
Sort of.
Well, that's a computer. That's not like that's AI. Do you think a human like is actually the desire of desire? Like if you don't have desire, how can you desire desire? Like to desire is implying that you don't have desire, but you do because it's a paradox.
Okay, so you're okay.
Okay, so if you want to desire, it implies there's a lack of desire, but there isn't because you're desiring desire.
I don't know if it implies a lack of desire though. Doesn't it imply
Why would you want desire if you didn't have it?
because you've had it prior and you know how good it is?
But now you don't have desire
Why not?
for whatever reason. Maybe you're depressed. Maybe you're on I don't know.
But then don't you have the desire to not be depressed?
But then you have desire.
So you never. Yeah. So I think desire is omnipresent. I don't think you ever can be devoid of it.
So
That's
you can't desire desire.
and also like desire. So how human are we saying like? Because I was talking to ChatGPT about this too. It's like
Third time.
it's like I mean, dude, we had a crazy conversation today. So like desires. Okay, that's like a human characteristic, right?
Yeah.
But then, so could you say that like, a dog doesn't have desire, but if the dog is salivating at a bell that's ringing for food, doesn't it desire food?
Well, then I wouldn't say like desire is a human thing. I would say it's like a conscious. It's a thing. It's a part of conscious.
So you're saying consciously wanting something.
Something can't. You can't. Desire can't be experienced if you can't experience.
Well, yes.
Yeah. So like a
Um.
plant can't really.
Okay. That makes sense. So
You
a
have-
plant doesn't desire the sun; it requires the sun.
Yes.
I mean, it
And
it has a biological inclination.
but there's no choice.
Yeah. There's no like.
Like a plant.
There's no internal want.
Yeah. There's also no like. I don't think a plant can prevent photosynthesis or not photosynthesis.
Plants are very intelligent, though. I'll give you a book, dude.
Well,
it's
then
called
what's-
Secret Life of Trees. It's gonna blow your fucking balls off.
But is that intelligence or is that? Oh, that's interesting.
Plant intelligence is real.
Yeah.
Plants are pretty intelligent. They do a lot of crazy shit, and they talk to each other. The wood wide web. That's what they call it.
Is that the
It's
roots?
all the tree, yeah, connected by fungi.
Yes, it's like the
Mhm.
the largest living thing.
Yeah, the largest living thing in Oregon, I believe.
Yeah, is a mushroom
Fungal.
underneath the ground.
Yeah. Which sort of feels like a cop out. But
Yeah.
like, how do we know?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Uh.
dude, can I tell you something crazy?
Yeah.
There was a story. Now this is stupid. Why'd I just do that to myself? It was
Alright.
about fucking Marco Polo.
In like fourth grade, we had to make a parody of Jingle Bells, and we had to make it about Marco Polo.
Whoa.
And I remember it to this day.
That's so specific.
Marco Polo, our teacher had to help us so much.
Well, it's on them. It's
This
a
was
fucking
like a
crazy
weird,
curriculum.
Actually, it was like we had a 45-minute class period to
Marco
make
Polo,
up a
Marco Polo.
like a parody of a Christmas song about some aspect of whatever we were learning about in history. But it went Marco Polo, he was an explorer, the first European to go to the Orient and travel through China.
Hey, that's not even true. That's a fucking lie.
What the fuck, Miss Konasek?
Konasek lied to you. No, he was not the first European. I'm reading a book about Marco Polo right now. He did do a very good job of recording it, although he did a lot of hyperbole. Dude, so he got captured by, so he was a Venetian,
Yeah.
and he got captured by a Genoese fleet. That was like their big rival.
Uh-huh.
And he was put into this prison, but since he was like of pretty high social standing, it was like a really, like he had like a golf simulator and everything. So he's in like a pretty nice prison, and he had all these stories because his uncle and his dad went to Kublai Khan, who's like the great fucking Khan. He's the shit.
Mhm.
Even people in Europe are like, holy shit, because the Mongols had taken over all of China at that point, and so Kublai Khan is the most feared man in the universe at that point. So his uncle and his dad went there, and then they're like, we're gonna return later. So they come back. Marco Polo he's like 17 now.
Mhm.
His dad has been away this whole time. His dad and his uncle, they go on the Silk Road. They bring him back, and his dad is like, look what I brought you. It's my son. And Kublai Khan is like, you're my boy now.
Damn.
And so Kublai Khan then uses Marco Polo because Marco Polo, compared to all of Kublai Khan's like henchmen that are going out to like get information, he's like way more articulate. He's fluent in all the languages he needs to be, and he's like super observant and very like hyper vigilant. So he's like, you're my guy. You're like my right hand man. I'm gonna send you everywhere. And I forget where I'm going with this.
Shout out Marco Polo.
Marco Polo.
What a
though.
journey.
Oh, he has all these crazy things happen to him, which is, I mean, we don't have enough to cover that, but all these crazy things that happen to him. He writes a book called Travels, which every sailor, because all my maritime books, like all the sailors had books they brought with them. The most popular book was Travels by Marco Polo, because the Eastern world was so unknown to the Europeans. And I mean, they were hundreds, thousands of years ahead technologically
Mhm.
in a ton of like ways that the Europeans couldn't even wrap their heads around. So half the shit Marco Polo is telling them, they're like, there's no way this is real.
Mhm.
A lot of it was real. A lot of it was exaggerated
It
as
is
well.
real.
So he gets nice. Shout out.
Hey.
Are you a Zionist? Okay. So Marco Polo, flash forward, he's like the captain of a Venetian fleet. They get captured by the Genoese, which I hope I'm pronouncing right. I've only read it. And he's in this super nice prison with the golf simulator. And he has this incredible wealth of stories from his travels, and he's just such a good storyteller that one by one people would come to his cell and they'd just be like, tell me some cool shit, dude. And he'd be like, today I'm going to talk to you about the time I went to the city of heaven in China. And they'd be like, all right, let's hear it. And he was so good at telling stories, and he had so many crazy stories that people would literally like line up at his cell.
Damn,
And he
dude.
became literally the most popular guy in that country, and he wasn't even from that country. He was the guy that they captured from a rival country, and he was so good at storytelling, and he had so many awesome stories that people would give him gifts and all this shit. So he was literally like lavishly living in this prison, and he was so popular that this one guy sat down with him, and he's like, listen, man, I'm going to write all this down. And then that's how all of his stories proliferated.
Wow.
But, I mean, how cool is that, dude?
Yeah, I didn't know. I honestly didn't really know who Marco Polo was.
I just thought he was a pool
crazy.
game. I seriously, like, I didn't even know Marco Polo was a real guy until I read all these maritime tales, and I learned about the Travels book.
Mhm.
And then from hearing from that, I was like, okay, so he wasn't like a real explorer. And now I'm reading this book. It's called From Venice to Xanadu, and I mean, his life is fucking nuts.
Dude,
So
yeah. I
It's
bet
kinda
he
the
was
goal.
a super genius.
I don't even know if Richard Burton was a super genius. You
Who's
want to talk
Richard
about?
Burton? Yeah.
Dude, I read this book about finding the source of the Nile. Dude, the Romans had a saying. They said, whenever faced with an impossibility, the Romans would say, it would be easier to find the source of the Nile. Because it was just, there were so many like tributaries and it just so fucking ginormous and massive. And this guy, Richard Burton,
What is the source of the Nile? We ought to know that by now.
well, there were a bunch of different, they thought it was like, I think it was the Tyanza. Fuck, I don't even remember. It was rumored that it was between these two big lakes. I mean, these lakes were so big in Africa. These lakes were so big that the tribes around the lakes thought they were oceans. I mean, that's how big these fucking lakes are. And but then even after because they were so big that it was like impossible to chart at that time with the technology. And then after that, like people kept rediscovering the source until finally it was like in the mountains somewhere and it trickled down or whatever. But this guy named Richard Burton, he was this British dude, and he was absolutely a genius. He knew like probably like 27 languages or something like that. He was the first European to ever sneak into Mecca, and he like dyed his skin brown with oils. He sort of did blackface.
Yeah, I mean,
and he snuck into Mecca, and he was the first person to ever do that, and he like recorded everything. This guy changed the way that I journal. He changed the way that I observe the world because of how he translated the Kama Sutra. Like he was like super into forbidden texts and like spreading all this knowledge and shit. And he's just like this fiercely intelligent guy. And he was with this other guy who is also a British dude. I'm fucking forgetting his name. But these two guys, they were tasked with going on this expedition to find the source of the Nile. And then they started butting heads the entire time. And the other guy is like this. He's like a big game hunter. So he's very down for adventure. But he's not nearly as cunning or smart as Richard Burton. And so they clash a lot. But they do have a ton of moments of like legitimate like camaraderie where they're like getting attacked by tribes together, and like one of them gets like a spear through his jaw, and they're saving each other's lives. So they are sort of building this brotherhood. And then Richard Burton gets really sick, so the other guy goes and then claims that he finds the source of the Nile, and he's like, it's done, we can return home. But Burton is like, no, we need to check the other lake to see if that one could be, I think it was the Nyanza, but he's like, no, we need to check the other one to see if that's it. I need to find this other guy's name really quick. I will. But it's just like bothering me that I don't know his name. Okay, Richard Burton and John Hanning Speke. So the other guy was John Hanning Speke. So Richard's sick. John Hanning Speke, he goes with a bunch of dudes. John Hanning Speke, while he's going with these dudes to find this other lake, they get attacked by a fucking swarm of beetles, and one of them burrows into his ear.
Oh,
and he tries to use a pen to get it out, and because this fucking beetle is just stuck in his ear canal, and he literally presses it farther into his ear, permanently loses hearing in that ear, and only like a year later did like the pieces of the beetle fall out of his ear.
Oh my god!
And it was like the most excruciating pain he had ever experienced.
Yeah, I bet.
And that guy had literally been like earlier in the book when they were together, he had like been like stabbed through the leg with a spear.
Oh.
Anyway, that's not really relevant. But so he's like, I found it while Richard was fucking sick, so I should get the credit for it, even though Richard is the mastermind behind all of this. So then they go back home, and there's this fierce debate about who's actually found it. Everybody's kind of now shitting on Richard Burton. They're like turning their backs on him, even though he's a true fucking genius. And so he's like, well, I don't need to prove to you guys that I'm right because I know I'm right. In the end, both of them actually weren't right. Mm-hmm. But Richard Burton still is a genius. But he was like, I'm going to just keep translating my texts and shit till the day I die. And then so they set up this they're like, we're going to finally settle this. And John Hanning Speke, they're like revering him as a hero. Mm-hmm. And they're like, he did all this incredible. He's like one of the greatest explorers of all time. So then they tried to, all the explorers would make back the money of the expedition by publishing their accounts of it. Mm-hmm. But John Hanning's account, Richard Burton was such an eloquent writer that no matter what he wrote, he could sell it for money and profit. John Hanning's account was so poorly written that even the guy he hired as the editor was like, dude, this shit's terrible. Like, you may have found this, but like, there's a bunch of inaccuracies. There's a bunch of like things that are missing. Like, so he published it and people were kind of like, did this guy fucking find the source of the Nile? So then they're like, we're going to set up a debate at the National Geographic Center or whatever the fuck it's called. And Burton's going to come in and debate John Hanning Speke. And everybody is sort of like, they don't know whose side to take. Richard Burton knows by matter of fact that regardless of whether or not he is correct, he's going to eviscerate John Hanning Speke in this debate because he is such a fucking smart dude. Mm-hmm. And John Hanning Speke in comparison is he just can't match his level. So they show up. Richard Burton is sitting in the chair. He's like ready to start this debate. John Hanning Speke walks in, sees Richard Burton, and he's like, I'm gonna take a moment. He walks out, and they're like in the hallway. They're like, "What's going on, dude?" And he's like, "I don't feel so good. I need to go home." So he goes to his estate back home, and they're like, "We're gonna postpone the debate like a week or something." He's home. He's hunting with his best friend. From the outset of the hunt, his friend is like, something seemed a little off about him. And because John Hanning Speke he's like one of the best hunters in the world at that point. So he's super good with guns and being safe. And then they go their separate ways. His friend hears a gunshot. He runs over. John Hanning Speke shot himself.
Whoa.
And it's like, was it an accident or we don't know?
Yeah.
But his friend is like, I mean, he's the best gunman I've ever met in my life. It was definitely a suicide because he didn't want to debate Burton. So then they tell Burton, they're like, hey, John Hanning Speke just killed himself. So you probably by default just won that debate. It comes out later that John Hanning Speke was actually correct, even though they were both disproved, but he was more correct than Burton. So then flash forward 30 years, there's like John Henning Speak is like this disgraced guy who like killed himself, and it was like really super tragic. And Burton like is like trying to, now he feels like this due diligence to say like this guy might have been wrong, and he might have not been that smart, but he was a good man. Like he truly was a good man. And they're making a bust of John Hanning Speak, and because of Richard Burton's attention to detail, they call him in, and they're like, "Tell us what he looked like." So then the guy who inadvertently sort of caused John Hanning Speak to kill himself, and his estranged best friend had to come in, and he literally, they're like saying that he like was going up to the clay and like molding his friend's face in the clay, like the guy, his friend who had killed himself because of this giant controversy. And he said it was like one of the hardest things he ever had to do.
Jesus Christ.
So imagine you get betrayed by somebody, they kill themselves, and then you get called in to help make their bust. Yeah, that's where I started crying.
Yeah.
In Australia. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
It was devastating. Yeah. Sorry about talking about that for so much.
Oh, good, man. That's so. What time period did this happen in?
Dude, I can't even remember. It was like it was like
you can remember.
Dude, well, time periods are numbers.
All of that.
That's like there's story to. I think it. Okay, 19th century. Okay, so it was 1800s.
There you have it, folks.
Did I say 1800s?
I think we should climb some rocks.
I feel bad because I just talked. You have to finish with something. At least 5 minutes of. I just talked too much.
I'll try and tell a story.
Yeah, dude, go ahead. Give me a little bedtime story.
What time is it?
It is 11:15. Probably gonna put this out on Tuesday.
So, the first time I went to a bar.
Okay.
It was. Dude, I don't have the energy to tell this story.
You're going to a bar.
You're
a young whippersnapper.
All right, so it's my friend Jack. He had an internship in the Chicago suburbs. He's my friend from college in Oregon. I'm in Chicago. He's in the suburbs. We haven't seen each other all summer, and so we're great friends. And no, I love Jack.
Jack's a beast.
Jack Davis is a beast. If
Main
he
character
ever,
in my book.
he will never see this. But Jack, you are that guy's sick.
Jack, I'll show you a link.
One of the smartest guys I know.
No Richard Burton, but definitely smart.
Jack Davis. Oh yeah, so we go to. So I'm like, all right, we're 19. I'm like, let's go. I know this one bar. They take all the fake IDs. Like they don't give a shit. So Wednesday night, 7:00, we patron McGee's Tavern.
Mm-hmm.
McGee's Tavern, notorious bar for DePaul kids in Chicago. Super shitty, greasy, and just like, no one gives a fuck about how old you are. But we get in there, it's 11 o'clock, or not 11, it's 7 o'clock on a Wednesday. And in my head, I'd built up this like insane, like Project X, like it's gonna be this crazy ass night.
Yeah, we're gonna go wild.
And then I get there and it's like the floor is like black and white checker, and I'm like, that's weird.
Italian.
And there's like 5 people there. One of them is there's this group of like 3 dudes. One of them is in like a cutoff shirt and like a drawstring backpack, and he's just like so hammered and just like pumped and like jumping and like woo. And
that's your guy.
That's my guy. But it's just really like, this is not what I expected this to be. And then eventually things pick up, and later there's these 2 girls at the bar, and they're drinking these drinks out of a bucket, like a mini like plastic bucket. And I was like, hey fellas, I'm gonna go talk to those girls, huh? And they're like, yeah, all right, yeah. I'm like, I'm gonna go do it, really. And they're like, okay, we don't care. And then I go up to them, I start talking to them, like, hey, like, what are you drinking? And they said, oh, it's a Long Island bucket.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's fun. And in my head, I thought like, oh, like a Long Island bucket. That just must mean the thing containing the drink is the bucket, and this is the thing that trashy people on Long Island do, is drink alcohol out of buckets. So then I go, oh, well, what's in it though? And they're like, a Long Island. And then I was like, I got scared. I was like, oh, that's crazy. All right, see you later. And didn't talk. And then I just
you ran away from them?
I don't really remember the night. I blacked out so hard. Like it was like that, like just like all of a sudden nothing. And then I woke up in the foyer of a random foyer. Pardon me, of a random 2 flat. And I woke up because some lady started shaking me. She's like, "Hey, you got to get out of here. Like, you got to go." And I was like, I like it was the most abrupt. I barely remember this too, but I just remember some lady was very frantic, like, "What? You can't be here. Like, you got to go." And then I got up and I walked onto the porch of the stranger's house, and I saw on the lawn there was my shoe, and there was my phone, and then there's a pile of throw up next to all of them.
Oh God.
So I put on my shoe. I grabbed my
Were
phone.
you wearing one shoe?
I was wearing one, yeah.
Okay.
And my phone's dead. I have to go to work that day at like 8. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna be late for work.
That's
My mom she didn't know I was at a bar. I was 19, but so I get home. I see my mom, and she like looks at me. She gives me a hug. She's like, "Hey, just if you're gonna sleep over at a friend's house, just let me know next time." And then I look at the clock, and it's like 7:30, and I still have time to get to work, and everything worked out. And ever since then, I think I believed in God a little bit.
Oh man, ooh,
I'm so bad at stories.
No, I mean that was a good story.
There was no beginning, middle, or end. There's no crescendo. There's no climax.
I'd say the crescendo was around finding out that the bucket contained Long Island's.
That was the biggest punch, and it was barely there. You really gave it to me. You were generous with that.
Yeah, dude, but you're a joke guy. No, I'm kidding. I mean, waking up in a foyer and having a lady shaking you.
That was crazy.
Nuts.
It's so funny. She was just like, "No, like you can't be here," and I was like, "Wow."
That's like what it must feel like to get knocked out in an MMA fight.
Imagine waking up and you're on your way to work, and there's just like
yeah, just a teenager with one shoe.
Puddle of a teenager. Yeah.
I almost feel like, and correct me. Well, so I've never had those drunk experiences. I've never blacked out. I've had horrible nights, but like I've never blacked out like that. I've never woken up in a location that I don't remember how I got there.
Mm-hmm.
Am I missing out? Because that's an experience.
It's an experience.
Should I do it?
I feel like you're 24. You're 25 or 24.
20. I act like a 30-year-old, but
yeah,
I am 24.
I feel like you're past the point where
Wait,
that's
how old
like
are you?
26.
Fuck. All right, go
I
ahead.
feel like you're past the point if that's where that's like a funny story. Because I was 19.
But the main cast of The Hangover was 30s, 40s.
Yeah, but that's not a cool story in real life.
I mean, waking up with a tiger in your hotel room, meeting Mike Tyson, getting a face tat.
Yeah, imagine if you actually did all that in real life. If all of a sudden you had a Mike Tyson face tattoo.
I just thought about the ramifications of getting a face tat, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Just having to like because I wouldn't tell my family until like Christmas break, and then they'd be like, "Oh my God, dude, Harry, take off the balaclava."
You would look so funny
with like the one wrapping around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't get a face tat. If I did get a face tat, I would get the Amari Stoudemire. I'd get the teardrops.
Yeah.
Yeah, people. I did time.
I would get I get a geometric wolf on my face.
You know, it'd be so funny, is if you got a geometric wolf on your other thigh. Dude, that would actually be so funny. That would be hilarious.
I'm now like thinking like,
dude, for the bit,
because it's become a thing where like I'll start this bit and I'll kind of like I'll say like, yeah, I got it because
holy shit,
I said wolves don't see for the opinion of sheep, and I'll kind of sit in that for a second. And what's been happening lately is at least someone would be like, show us.
Yeah.
And so then I've been like kind of been like trying to bait the audience into saying that, and then figuring out how to like navigate being like, what the shut the you're like, you know.
You don't show them?
I don't show them.
You gotta show them.
No, I never do.
You got it, dude.
No. Because I like kind of letting them bully me a little bit, and then like trying to like figure out how to get them.
Okay, that's true, but I mean, if the reveal, I was gonna say like if you had both thighs.
That's what I'm saying. I was like,
if you had both thighs, then you reveal one, and then you're like, but then, you know, that was like 5 years ago. I've matured since. I decided to get another geometric wolf tattoo, and then you showed the other one. It's just like slightly more detailed.
Okay, but what if this like that joke doesn't really work?
Then it's even funnier. There's no loss. I'll fund this tattoo.
That would be so funny.
Yo, so are we getting flip phones?
I would 100% do that.
Fuck, dude.
I've seriously the only reason I use Instagram is for comedy purposes, and I don't
No, I can't do this, dude.
anytime
The
I have,
messaging app is too good for like texting and everything.
me-
It connects to the
but
computer.
you can do that when you're at home. It's like you only use it at home. It's like a desktop.
No, but like when I have my phone here, also like my notes app, writing notes for comedy. Also my recorder app, dude. I need my phone.
I bet
Fuck.
there's a phone that maybe
Dude, Sam Bureau just said, "Fuck, I just woke up. My bad, Harry."
called it.
Wait, let's call him and then let's end this pod.